What up, what up, what up, Lakers Nation, man. Lakers Nation, salute to all of you. Welcome back to Bleacher Report for your dose of Lakers Daily free agency edition, right? Here we are, day 2 of free agency. July 2nd, we are here. Man, it all came so fast. But welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. Remember, we're here every day of the week, Monday through Friday, 7 p.m. Eastern Time, 4 p.m. Pacific. We are here for you to talk all things Lakers basketball. So make sure you guys tap in. Whatever the Lakers do, we got you covered. Whatever they don't do, which is where we're at right now, we still got you covered. So here we are, man, day 2, and it's been a crazy day 2. It was a crazy day 1, but day 2 was insane. That big move with Milwaukee and Indiana that saw Miles Turner, a Lakers target, right? We've all been wanting Miles Turner. He was finally moved. So on the year that we finally thought that he would stay, he's moved. All these other years, we thought that he would be moved, and he stays. But now they go to Game 7 of the finals, and now he's moved, right? They don't want to pay that tax with Halliburton out all next season. I get it, but then that wasn't the only thing in that deal. You know, he got moved to Milwaukee, but then Milwaukee waived Damian Lillard. Dame time is no longer in Milwaukee. They waived him and stretched him. So they're going to pay that man $22 million for the next 5 years to send him home or to get him off their squad. That's insane, but enough of all that. There's just been so many moves. Let's talk about the Lakers. I guess talking about everyone else is far more interesting because the Lakers haven't done much. The only thing the Lakers have done is they've signed Jake LaRavia. I love the player, Jake LaRavia. I love the prospect. Of course, we lost DFS, so DFS walked. We lost DFS. He's in Houston now on a 4-year, $53 million deal, so we may just got his replacement in Jake LaRavia. They're comparable players. Now, DFS was much better defensively, but Jake is only 23 years old, so if he can develop into a defensive player, then we may have something there. He's 23 years old. He gives you some defense. He's a pest. He gets up in you. He's a disruptor. He plays those passing lanes really, really well. You know, he gets those deflections, gets some steals. So he's active in the passing lanes. So you absolutely love that. I think that the major thing with him defensively that he has to work on, and I don't know how he can really work on it, is his foot speed. He's not the fastest, right? He's semi-athletic. I wouldn't say he's not athletic because he is somewhat athletic, but his foot speed. So we have to kind of work around that. It's difficult when you add a player who's not, I don't want to say bad. He's not bad defensively. He's definitely a decent defensive player. I think his defense is underrated a bit. But again, we already know there's a ton of deficiencies on that side of the ball already on this team in Austin Reeves and Luka Doncic and so on and so forth. So offensively, though, Jake is good offensively, man. He can shoot that 3 ball. He can attack the paint. He's very good. He's actually 42% from 3 and 67% in the paint. So he's not just shooting threes. He's in the paint a lot. When you look at his shot chart, they're all behind the 3 or they're all in the paint. He doesn't really work in that mid-range at all. In fact, I didn't see any red or green, any red X's or green circles on his shot chart. They were all in the paint or beyond the arc. Now, Jake, of course, he's coming from Sacramento. He was drafted the 19th pick overall, drafted by Memphis. So those are 2 teams he's played for. So you haven't seen a lot with him because he just haven't had, he hasn't had opportunity. Well, here in Los Angeles, he's going to get an opportunity. In fact, he could potentially be in the starting lineup. We could find Jake starting for this Lakers team. Of course, you lost DFS. We know DFS was a starter for the Lakers, particularly down the stretch, but in and out, since we acquired him, he was in that starting lineup. But then if the Lakers do move on from Rui Hachimura, if they trade him, then there's an open spot for him to start. So we'll see. We'll see how that all plays out. We'll see what moves the Lakers make. and we'll see how they build out this roster to see if he is in the starting lineup. But if not, he's coming off the bench, so he's a legit wing that you can play, a very playable wing. I do see him thriving here in whether it's the bench role or the start. I can see him thriving here with the Lakers alongside Luka. His catch and shoot threes are elite. He's in the 19th percentile on catch and shoot threes. So he can really do that. And we know if you can do that, then there's a spot for you alongside a Luka Doncic, right? Now, if the Lakers do keep Dalton Connect, you know, you can get both of those guys out there and have Luka throwing both of those guys the ball, or Austin or LeBron. Both of those guys having open shots, open opportunities, and having the green light. We could be cooking something there. Or you pair him with Rui if he's on the floor with Rui at times. Same thing, you know, having two shooters out there. He's going to stretch the floor, definitely. And again, catch and shoot threes, he's pretty elite. So I'm excited about the pick. You lost DFS. That hurts. Now, speaking of DFS, again, he signed a 4-year, $53 million deal. Now, the Lakers, they didn't mind the money. They would have gave him the money. It was the years that were an issue. And I don't blame either side. Let's start with DFS. I don't blame him. DFS is 32 years old. He'll be 33 this season, right? So he's looking for his last big payday. This is probably it. You know, a 4-year, $53 million deal. He's not going to get a contract anywhere near that anymore in his career, right? In his career, we're talking about. So at the end of it, he'll be 36, 37. He's not going to get that. By that time, I think he's entering into vet minimum territory, a 36, 37-year-old, right? We already seen him take a step back athletically, right? His athleticism, he's a step slower than what he used to be, which is fine. He's 32. We know he's had ankle issues. He's coming off an ankle surgery. So again, go get your bag, man. 4 years, that's a lot. On the Lakers side of it, again, they didn't have a problem matching the money. The money is not that big of an issue, because especially because you had his bird rights, because you traded for him. You acquired him via trade, so they didn't have a problem. But it was the years. 4 years, the Lakers were not going to do that. And again, that's what DFS wanted. I thought it would be 3 years. Well, he ended up getting 4 years in Houston. So 3 or 4 years, I just think that's too much. The Lakers don't want to tie up that cap space. You know, they're trying to preserve their cap space for 2027. So they're not really trying to hand out contracts that extend past 2 years. And definitely for a 32-year-old DFS, I don't think they were going to do that. And I think this is something that we have to get used to as a fan base with the new ownership coming in. I think they're going to be the same way. If you look at how the Walter Group, the Guggenheim Group, all, you know, that ownership group, how they do with the Dodgers, they don't really extend big contracts to guys on that side of 30, the wrong side of 30, if you will. So if they don't do it in baseball, which is a lot easier to play deep into your 30s in baseball, imagine in the NBA, in basketball, right? It's a lot more difficult because you're moving a lot more, right? So I think this is something that we have to get used to. So I don't blame the Lakers. In fact, I agree. If it was a 3-year, 4-year deal, I wouldn't have done it either. It just sucks because you gave up picks. You gave up 3 second-round picks to acquire him. So again, you know, you give up assets and this guy walks away. And it's crazy because it dawned on me right before we got on here. This is the second time this happened with the Lakers in Houston. You fast forward. You remember Dwight Howard? Same situation. We acquired Dwight and he walked for nothing and went to Houston. Now, fast forward years later, you got DFS doing the same thing. 2 entirely different players and situations, but still, nonetheless, the Lakers lose another guy to the Houston Rockets. So, goodbye, DFS, man. We wish you luck. But hello, Jacob LaRavia. I'm very excited about him. Him and Austin, they're really good friends. In fact, just a week ago, the two of them were working out together, and they actually did an interview with Trevor Lane of Lakers Nation. He was on there, so it's crazy. So it looks like this was probably in the works for a while. In fact, Jake was the first call in free agency that Rob made. They called Jake. That was their first call, right? So they were very high on him. He was high on their list, and they were very interested in signing him. And if he was their first call, then yeah, he was one of the guys that they wanted, right? He also shares agents with Austin Reeves. I think that's an important note to add to this, right? Because we know that the Lakers will be negotiating with Austin and with his agency moving forward all year long. We know Austin opted out, and we know the Lakers want to keep him. They want him to stay here next summer when he can sign a new deal. So I think there's interest from both sides, and they want to keep him. So just having another fellow agency partner, fellow agency mate on the squad, do with that information as you will. All right, so let's see what Jake gives us, right? Moving on, still no center, right? Again, that's the only move that we made in free agency thus far. But we know where all eyes are on Ayton. Everyone else is off the board. Brook Lopez is gone. Clint Capella is gone, and just down the list, everyone's pretty much off the board. That center market is drying up, and still the Lakers have no center. We're still sitting here with Lynn and Jackson Hayes, who, by the way, they're both free agents, so they're not even on the technically under contract yet. However, we can, if we need to, we can sign them. But yeah, here we are, day 2 of free agency. We all know the Lakers need a center, no center. So we know all eyes are on DeAndre Ayton. At this point, is it DeAndre Ayton or bust? It's starting to look like that, right? We're all in. So with the move of Turner going to Milwaukee, I think that kind of eliminates them out of this. And then they turn around and sign Jericho Sims as well. So it looks like Milwaukee, they addressed that need. They're not looking for a center. Of course, they lost Brook Lopez to an LA team, but not us. They lost him to the Clippers. So he's heading to the Clippers. He got paid $8 million. He's heading there to back up Big Zubac, right? Another former Laker. Man. Oh, what would I do for Zoo right now? Oh gosh, that stings a little bit. That stings. But anyways, so Milwaukee, they addressed their big position, their center position after losing Brook Lopez. And I think they were probably the Lakers' biggest competition in possibly snatching up DeAndre Ayton. So now he's not, because they could offer him more money. So in the Jake LaRavia move, the Lakers, they use some of that MLE money, right? The MLE was 14 million, just over 14 million. Well, they used 6 million of that to give to Jake. So now they're left at $8.2 million in that, with that MLE. $8.2 million is left in that MLE. So that's pretty much what they would offer to a DeAndre Ayton. Interesting to note that the Ayton buyout, so he was under contract for $35 million, right? The buyout was for $25 million, which means he forfeited $10 million to get bought out. So one would think that that's what the Lakers wanted to offer him, that $10 million that he lost. Well, it looks like the closest we can get to that is 8.2. So you're looking at what? $1.8 million short, $1.8 million shy of, him recouping that $10 million that he gave up to be bought out. So we'll see how much of a factor that is. Now, Indiana, again, they did move on from Miles Turner, which was crazy. It was just, he walked. It wasn't a sign and trade, none of that. He just walked. Again, Halliburton is injured next season. They just don't want to pay a tax. They don't want to be they just don't want to do that. So insane, right, that they did that. But now they're in the need for a center, right? They don't have a center now. Could DeAndre Ayton go there? Could they come in and scoop up Ayton? They can offer more money. That's the first question you want to ask. How much money can they offer? They can offer a little bit more than the Lakers can. I think they have their full MLE available. So it comes down to Ayton. What does he want? Does he want money? Does he want to rehab his image? Does he want to play? He said he wants to play in a winning situation, or his representative said he wants to be in a winning situation. So you look at, you compare the two teams. I mean, I just don't know. You look at Indiana, they don't have Halliburton. So I'm guessing TJ McConnell, he's going to be their starting point guard. Whereas in LA, your starting point guard is Luka Doncic. Who do you rather play with, TJ or Luka? I think that's kind of easy question, right? And also you look at it from a team totality, who's in a better position to win? Again, no Halliburton. They were just in the finals. That's going to be a huge blow. They lost Miles Turner. So will they come out the East? Will they be enough, continue to be a competitor in the East? I don't know. Losing Holly, that's a big loss, big loss. And I'm a huge fan of TJ, but I don't think he's a replacement. You know, he's a backup, right? That you want. He's a guy you want backing up a Halliburton, right? So when you look at the team totality, again, the one thing they do have, they're in the Eastern Conference, so I guess it's a little more easier. The West is loaded, and it's getting more and more loaded. Most of the moves that's happened in these 2 days of free agency, they've all come in the West. So again, it's going to come down to what Ayton wants. You know, what does he want? Now, an interesting note to make, interesting thing to make note of with Indiana and Ayton. They've been linked before. A couple of years ago, Indiana, they made an offer sheet to Ayton, and Ayton was prepared to go to Indiana, but you know, they came in and matched it. He was restricted free agent. They came in and matched it, so he didn't end up going to any. I recall. I don't remember if it was Phoenix or if it was Portland. They matched it nonetheless, and you know, the rest was history. He didn't end up going there. So there's been interest there before. Something else about Ayton, he's a West Coast guy. He kind of grew up. He's from the islands, right? But he kind of grew up in here on the West Coast. He actually went to school, to the same school as Vando in the LA area, right? So he's pretty much been on those West Coast his entire career. He was in Phoenix, right? And then he was in Portland. And, you know, so there's that. He obviously likes the West Coast. So we'll see. But I think those are the only two teams. It's either us or Indy. I think that's what it comes down to. So we'll see how that plays out. The fact that the Lakers aren't spending any more of that MLE money, and the fact that they're sitting here not doing anything, you know, you would think that they have this thing locked up. you really would. And of course, Ayton, if you didn't know, Ayton shares an agent, Bill Duffy. He shares an agent with Luka Doncic. So there's that there. So they've been able to kind of communicate with him, right? Or Luka's been able to talk to him. And I just think that the option is Luka. Again, I'm not trying to play favoritism or any of that, but what Ayton needs to do, he needs to repair his image in this NBA. He's 26, so this is make or break time for Deandre Ayton. We know how things worked out in Phoenix, you know, and in Portland, same situation, you know, so he's not the perfect player. He's been known to check out. He's been known not to give 100% and all that, but I can see both sides of the story. There was a lot going on in Phoenix where I could see why he was moving the way he was moving, right? And in Portland, it just wasn't a winning situation. It was a losing situation. So I could see him not being dialed in there. He's been known as a low motor guy, but again, players can change. You know, when your scenery changes, you know, a player can change. And this is legit his last opportunity. So what better place to repair your value, repair your image than with the Los Angeles Lakers? Not only that, than with Luka Doncic. He's on a contract year. So if he wants to continue to play in this league, you know, he's going to have to show that he's worth the risk. He's going to have to show that he's worth the money, right? A team taking a chance on him. And if you look at Luka's track record, when it comes to bigs, Luka makes bigs look really, really good. And then I think Ayton would be the most talented center that Luka's ever had the opportunity to play with, aside from aside from Porzingis, right? What other center that's as good or as talented as Ayton has he played with? Derek Lively is great. He's great. But I think Ayton is a little better. Don't you think, right? You look at Ayton's numbers. I mean, he's bald. He's bald. So he's a walking double-double. Like, there's no way around that. But in the playoffs, I want to give you his playoff numbers. So he's played 45 games in the playoffs, right? And he's averaging in the playoffs 16 points and 10.5 rebounds on 63% shooting, 63% from the field, 50% from three. And in those 45 games, he's produced 41 blocks and 29 steals. So in the playoffs, he's been really, really good. And remember, you go back to Phoenix, that's when he was in the playoffs. The one season, they went all the way to the finals, right? All the way to the finals. So in that season, we're talking about the 2020-2021 season, when Phoenix went to the finals in 22 games, his numbers went up a little bit. 16 points, 12 rebounds, 65% from the field, 50% from three. So when he's put in a winning situation, when he has an opportunity to play winning basketball, he stepped up to the challenge, right? So you look at his time in Portland, again, that was just a losing situation for him. It wasn't a winning situation for him. So the man can ball. He can ball. 63% field goal shooting in the playoffs, right? So that's something there, man. 50% from three. So that's something. And yeah, the Lakers, they will be contenders. They're considered contenders. So he'll have the opportunity to rehab his image, rehab his value. It'll be on a 1-year deal. For me, it's just a risk that the Lakers have to take. You just have to take that risk, right? I understand all the negative publicity and all that stuff, but again, we're putting the guy in a new situation. We have veterans on this team in LeBron and Luka and so on and so forth. So it's just an entirely different environment. So hopefully he can push past his past and rehab things. And I just think this is the best place to do it. The biggest opportunity to be the starting center for the Los Angeles Lakers, the potential of being their next great big man. He has that potential. His ceiling is that big. I really do think so. Again, we already went over his numbers, but now you're playing on a team with Luka Doncic. Come on, man. All the mismatches you're going to get, the easy buckets you're going to get, the lobs you're going to be able to get, the wide open threes you're going to be able to knock down. And then LeBron James also. Yeah, I just think that the Lakers is their best option. So when can this thing be done? We're all sitting and waiting and waiting and waiting. Well, he was bought out Sunday night. You have to wait 48 hours. You have to clear waivers. So 48 hours before he can sign with anyone. So tomorrow, that's the day 3 of free agency. Tomorrow, July 3rd, rather. Tomorrow, July 3rd, or July 2nd. Tomorrow's July 2nd. Whatever tomorrow is. Tomorrow, Wednesday. Tomorrow's July 2nd. Tomorrow, Wednesday, at 5 p.m. Eastern Time, 2 p.m. Pacific. That's when he clears waivers. So that's when he can sign a team. Now, he couldn't. The report of him intending to sign, the intent to sign with the Lakers, that could have dropped. You kind of saw that with Jordan Clarkson. Of course, he was bought out by the Utah Jazz, and you kind of got that news yesterday that he intends to sign with New York once he clears waivers. We didn't get that with Ayton. But again, I think there was more interest from other teams with Ayton, right? I think Milwaukee, they were interested in him, possibly Indiana. So we'll see how that all plays out. After him, free agent-wise, there's not many centers out there. I had Larry Nance Jr. on my board. I thought he would have been a good guy to go out and sign. We know we drafted him. He's still good. He's versatile. He gives you some defensive scoring that's got better over the years. But he ended up going to Cleveland not too long ago. He's returning to Cleveland, signed a new deal with Cleveland. You got Al Horford out there. He's another name. If he leaves Boston, which is looking like he's going to do, he's a name. But Indiana, I think they could be very interested in Al Horford. He fits their system. We know Miles Turner, what he was a stretch 5, a stretch big. Well, that's exactly what big Al Horford is, right? Another option for Al is Golden State. We know he'll fit perfectly in there. Same thing, a stretch 5. You got Draymond there to do all the dirty work in the paint. He can be that stretch 5 or stretch 4, whatever you want to call him. He fits there as well. And then he can play alongside Draymond. He can play alongside Kuminga. He fits their system perfectly, having that stretch 5. So I don't know. I would love to get both of them. If I could get Ayton and him, that gives you versatility there. You'll have your traditional center in Ayton, your 7-footer in Ayton, and then you'll have that versatility stretch 5 in Al Horford. And you can even play those two together. But I don't know, because again, I think the Warriors are interested in him, and Indiana, they should be very interested in him to replace Miles Turner. So I don't know if you can get both of them, right? After that, there's really no centers in the free agent market to go out and get. Now, trade-wise, on the trade front, the Lakers could still go and make a trade. In fact, Dave McMenamin, he was on ESPN Radio not too long ago before we got on here for the stream, and he actually hinted at that. He hinted at the Lakers are possibly jockeying themselves to make a trade for a center. So he's hinting that they're not all in on a Deandre Ayton. In fact, he said that what the holdup could be is that there's a team that has a center. They're looking to acquire another center, so the Lakers can't really make an offer until they acquire that other center. So who could that be? Who could he be talking about? You can look at Houston, right? They just acquired Clint Capella. They got two other bigs, so they got multiple bigs, but I think they're keeping their guys. I think they're keeping all of them. They have Sengun, they have Adams, and they have Capella. So I don't know if it's them. You can look at Phoenix, Nick Richards. He may be available after the moves they made, or you can go bigger and look at Utah. How about in Utah? They have multiple centers on their roster. So could a potential Kessler deal finally be done? Could that be who he was hitting at? I don't know, man. But that is out there. That's fresh and new news for you today, right? If you didn't hear that literally happened right before we jumped on. So is that what the Lakers could be doing? Or could they be looking at Nick Claxton maybe? If they want to do that, they want to make that trade, get Nick Claxton. I don't know. But we will know really, really soon what the plans are. We're going to have to, right? Tomorrow, Ayton is available to agree to terms with the deal. So we'll see if it's him, or we'll see if a trade breaks out. Now, if a trade breaks out, if they trade for a big, trade for a center, whether it's one of these guys we just mentioned or someone else out there in the dark that we haven't talked about much, that could happen now. We don't have to wait till tomorrow for that. That can happen right away. So we'll see what happens. The one thing, though, the Lakers have been really, really quiet, so they're definitely up to something. Now, aside from the taxpayer, and remember, a new rule in the CBA, you can trade someone into your MLE, right? It doesn't have to be a signing. You can trade someone. So if there's someone out there that's worth 8.2, that's making $8.2 million, a center out there, they can do that. They can trade for a guy. Right now, who makes that amount of money? Walker Kessler. He actually makes less than that. So there, you can trade Walker Kessler into that full MLE right there. So just throwing that out there. Now, Nick Claxton, he makes more than that. Nick Richards, he makes a lot less than that. So it could be one of those options, if they look to trade. Aside from the MLE, the Lakers also have their biannual exception at their availability. So that's what, $5.1 million. So that's another contract that the Lakers can go out and offer to someone. They can offer to one person, or they could split it up, So we'll see what they do there. But yeah, that's definitely there. That's definitely available. And we'll see. We'll see. But we know the biggest need is center. So we'll see how that all plays out. Currently, right now on the roster, the Lakers have 12 guys on their roster. Remember, the number is 15. That's the max that you can get. They have 12 guys, but technically they have 30. So they have 12 guys under contract. But you have to add in their second-round pick, Adu Thoreau. That'll make 13. So once they agree to terms with him, that makes 13. He's definitely getting a contract. When you move up 19 spots to go after him, 19 spots to get him, then yeah, you're going to sign them. So they'll agree to terms soon there. So they have 13 guys. Now, obviously, they have to get a center, so that'll make 14. Actually, they need two centers, in my opinion. You can't just get one center. You look at what Denver did. They got Jokic already, and then they just went out and traded for Jonas Valanciunas. So they're stacked at the big position. We talked about Houston. They're stacked at the big position with three centers. So they need more than one center. They definitely need more than one center. So again, with Adu Thoreau, they're at 13 spots filled, 13 roster spots filled. Now they do have Shake Milton. They can waive his contract, so that could free up a roster spot. They haven't done so yet because I think they're waiting to see if they need his contract. So it's a non-guaranteed contract. That's that way up until July 20th. So they technically have to make a decision on him until July 20th. The reason why they're holding on to him, because they may need his salary to move in the trade. So let's say they strike a trade. Now the Lakers are a first apron team. So we became a first apron team after we used a portion of that MLE to sign Jacob LaRavia. So we're a first apron team. First apron, not second. We're a first apron team. So what that means, if the Lakers make a trade, they have to send out matching salaries that they're they have coming in. So let's say they make a trade for someone for $18 million, right? Well, they have to send out $18 million. They can't send out 17.9 or 17 or 17 and a half. It has to be dollar for dollar. They have to send that out, or sorry, they can't take back in with it more than what they're sending out. So they could send out less. That works in their favor. They can send out less. They can't take back in more. So again, say if you're trading for a guy for $18 million, right? Well, it's gonna have to be the same money, right? So if the reason why they're holding on to Shake Milton's contract, because again, they may have to include that in the deal. They say they're trying to get a guy for $18 million, but they only have salaries in the ballpark of $15 million. Well, you can guarantee the $3 million of Shake Milton's contract, include him in the deal, and then that gives you the $18 million there. So, or if they need that roster spot, then they could just waive them. Or July 20th, if they have their roster filled out, then they'll waive them. So we'll see. We'll see what happens there. But that's an interesting thing to keep a note, keep a mental note on. What other free agents are out there for the Lakers to get? Aside from center, you look at the board. I don't know. I just don't know, man. Bruce Brown, he's one I would have loved to get, but he's heading back to Denver. He re-upped with Denver. Let me see what other news we got here before we get out of here. But Dame Lillard, okay, he's gonna get he'll get the opportunity to go to a new team. He's bought out. So the thing with Dame is, because he's bought out, he has his money already. So now he can go sign to anyone for a vet minimum. Any contender that he wants to go to, he can be signed for a vet minimum. That's what's going to happen. Now teams may offer a little bit more. If there's a bidding war for him, if there's multiple teams interested in him, they may come in and offer a little bit more. But Dame to the Lakers could be a possibility. Now, I don't think it happens anytime soon. Dame is going to be out pretty much the majority of next year. I don't know if he could get back towards the end of the season for the playoff push, or if he'll just take the entire year off. I don't know, but he has a lot of rehab to do. He just had surgery, so he has to rehab that Achilles, right? He has Achilles, right? So he has to rehab that. So yeah, he'll be out the majority of the season. So we'll see. We'll see what happens with him, but he'll be able to go sign anywhere he wants to go. If he wants to go to Miami, maybe. If he wants to go back home, he's from the Bay Area, Oakland. So if he wants to go play for the Warriors, then he can do that. If he wants to come to LA and play with Luka, LeBron, he can do that, right? So we'll see. He can even go back to Portland. So we'll see how that all plays out. We have plenty of time to talk about that, but that is something of note, to store in the back of your mind. Let's see what else we got. We got anything going? Any news? Okay, yeah. Jacob Portal, he agreed to stay in Toronto, 4-year, $104 million contract extension. Wow, so he got paid, man. He got paid. What else we got? Trey Mann, he signs with the Hornets to stay there, 3 years, $24 million. Nothing else about the Lakers. I don't see anything. Again, the main league is Milwaukee. I think they were going to be the biggest competitor for Ayton because they just needed a starting center. Although Ayton can stretch the floor a bit. That's not his game. He's more a traditional center, but he can knock him down. But coming from Brook Lopez, I think you just want a stretch guy. So they got their guy now, Miles Turner, but we're talking about before. If Miles Turner wasn't moved there, they were probably the Lakers' biggest competition in acquiring Ayton because they just didn't have anyone, and he would be a starter there, right? So, again, at the end of the day, I just think it's a risk that the Lakers need to take. He's 26 years old. He's a legit 7-footer. He's a legit double-double. He's proven in the playoffs. Again, in the playoffs, 16 points, 10.5 rebounds, 63% from the field, 50% from three. So he's proven in the playoffs, and those numbers, that's his averages, but he's exceeded those averages. And when he did, his team went to the finals. So I just think it's a risk you have to take. And if it doesn't work, then it's just $8 million. It's $8 million expiring contract. You can move that at the trade deadline if it's not working early on. But next season, it's just $8 million. So it's not a lot of money that you're tying up in there. And it's something that fell into your lap because I don't think anyone saw a buyout coming. But Portland, they just couldn't move that $35 million contract, so they ended up buying him out. But you're able to acquire a starting center without having to give up any assets. And that's just something that the Lakers they haven't been able to do. We talked about DFS, which essentially that's what opened up. Losing DFS is what opened up, you being able to go out and get Deandre Ayton. So you look up what you gave up. You look at what you had to give up for DFS. You had to give up 3 second-round picks. Well, for Ayton, you don't have to give up any. No first-rounders, no second-rounders. Had the Lakers traded for Ayton, they would have had to give up assets. They would have had to give up players, because they would have had to match that salary, and they would have had to give up a pick, possibly a first-round pick if they wanted his services. Now, I'm not saying that they would have done that, but I'm just saying they possibly would have had to acquire him. So now you have the opportunity to acquire him for only $8 million, not the 35. That's the other thing too. The Lakers would have had to match salaries up to $35 million to get him. Now it goes from 35 down to 8. Now it goes from giving up players down to giving up none. Now it goes from giving up picks to having to give up none. So I just think that it's a risk that you have to take. Because if it hits, which I'm a believer that it will, if it hits, then you got your man for the future. Instead of just searching out a guy to plug in at the 5, you could potentially have the guy who can be with Luka for the next 4 or 5 years, right? $26 million. And I think it's all about how Luka feels as well. I think they have to make that decision. How does Luka feel? What does Luka want to do? Remember, Luka has to sign a contract on August 2nd. If he doesn't, for whatever reason, if Luka doesn't sign that contract, then I think you got to trade Luka. You got to look to trade him, right? You just have to. So the fact that you want him to sign that contract, you're including him on these decisions, these offseason decisions, free agency decisions. So you want to know what he thinks. Who does he want at center? Does he want you to go out and trade for Nick Claxton or Walker Kessler or Nick Richards or any of those guys? Or does he want you to sign DeAndre Ayton? I believe he's heavily involved in that decision. Again, they do share agents. So having another agency partner on your roster, another agency mate, I think that's big too. But having a 7-footer, a legit center in Ayton. And you look at Ayton last year, go back and look at the tape of Ayton last year. He played very well in Portland. Again, Portland, they were tanking. They were in the Cooper Flag sweepstakes. They did not want to win. So it's kind of hard to base him or judge him off of there, right? He only played 40 games last year, but not all of that was due to injury. Some of that was just due to sitting him out because they didn't want to win. And Ayton was really good last year. He's a good player. So the more you play him, you're putting yourselves in a situation to win. So we'll see. We'll see how it all plays out. But again, we'll know really, really soon. One last check before we get out of here to see if anything's going down, anything has happened. I don't see anything. Another name that's not a center that I think the Lakers should target with their biannual exception or even a portion of that or a vet minimum is DeAnthony Melton. We know he's coming off an ACL injury. So he's another guy who's looking to rehab his career, rehab himself, right? So bringing him in on a prove-it deal. So having both of those guys, DeAnthony Melton and DeAndre Ayton on prove-it deals, 1-year prove-it deals, I think that's something that the Lakers should consider. And he's a player that I would love to have. He's a two-way guy, mainly defense, right? He's that point of attack defender that the Lakers desperately need. So I would love to see what that looks like. So he's another name to look out for. He's still on the board. I haven't seen anyone take a gamble on him yet. Again, he's coming off of ACL, so you can probably get him for the MLE. You can probably get him for that, and then you'll still have your buy on an exception. Although I don't know what all is out there. There's not a lot out there. So, Lakers Nation, we just have to exercise some patience. I know it's unfortunate. It's not what you want to hear. As soon as free agency starts, you want to hear the Lakers did this, the Lakers did that. But I still think there's time for Rob to knock this thing out of the park. If you can land Deandre Ayton for only $8 million without having to give up any assets, I think that's major. And then if you do that, you still have your biannual exception there, so you can still get another guy or guys, with that $5.1 million. And then you still have contracts to trade. You still have Gabe Vincent's contract to trade. You still have Rui Hachimura's contract to trade if you want to. You still have Maxi Kleber's contract to trade. So you still have Dalton Connect, and you still have that 2031 first round pick. So the Lakers could get real active here. There could be multiple moves coming. And as they wait on Ayton, I'm pretty sure Rob is getting all that stuff in place. Remember, rewind back to when we landed AD. Remember, we waited around for Kawhi. That didn't work. And immediately after we found out that didn't work, it was boom, boom, boom. Lakers signed this guy. Lakers signed that. Lakers signed Danny Green. Lakers signed, it was just move after move after move, right? So he had plans B, C, and D in place. He had a solid plan B. If that didn't work, he had C and D in place. So I'm hoping that it's another, it's that all over again. But I'm hoping we get our guy this time in Ayton, and then we still get boom, 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 moves after that. So we'll see. Again, we'll see how it all plays out. But let's see what happens. Then, of course, we get out of here with the LeBron news. Touch on it really, really fast. Does he want out? Will he move? Will he request a trade? As of right now, there's been no trade talks with LeBron James. Rich Paul confirmed that. They're not discussing trades. They haven't discussed trades with the Lakers. So he believes, according to Rich Paul, LeBron believes that the Lakers can figure this out. And hopefully that means he'll retire a Laker. If I had to put my money on it, I don't see LeBron going anywhere. I think he'll stay here. I think he'll retire a Laker, and we'll run it off like that. Again, he opted in. It is interesting that there was not discussion of a new extension or 1+1, any of that. Rich Paul did say that. So there was no talks of that with the Lakers. So what does that mean? I don't know. Of course, every year prior, it was whatever LeBron wanted to do, they were willing to do. LeBron and Rich also understands, according to Rich, he understands that the Lakers have a need to build around Luka, as they should. So we'll see how this thing plays out. If he were asked to be moved, it's going to be a very difficult contract to move. You're talking about $53 million. Where will he go? You say Cleveland, send him back to Cleveland. He'll return to Cleveland. Well, Cleveland, they're a second apron team. So they don't have anyone on the roster that's making $53 million to just do a trade, and the money has to match them being a second apron team. The thing, though, with them, you say, they could include multiple players. They could stack up a Jared Allen and stack up a Hunter and stack up, some of those other guys, right? Well, being a second apron team, you can't even do that. You can't even aggregate or combine salaries. So they have to make a move to get under the second apron. So they have to trade someone just to get under the second apron to be able to do a trade for LeBron James. So there's a lot that needs to be done there. But immediately you have to think of them, Cleveland, right? You look at Dallas. From everything I saw, Dallas is only interested in LeBron if it's a buyout. They're not looking to trade for LeBron. And again, $53 million, there's just not a lot of contracts there in Dallas. Aside from AD and Kyrie, everyone else is making small money. Their next biggest contracts are PJ Washington, Gafford, and Klay Thompson, but they're all like around $15 million. So it's going to be hard to stack it. You're going to have to send out 3-4 guys in a deal like that, right? The Clippers, if he wants to stay in LA, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, LeBron said he'll never play for the Clippers. So I don't see that happening. But same thing, who are they giving up to get him? New York, I would love to see LeBron in New York in the Garden. That'll be amazing. That'll be crazy. And I think it's a little easier to do a trade there because you could do a cat for LeBron. Cat makes money close to LeBron, they would still have to add in another player. But I think money-wise, you can get there with that. But I mean, I don't know. And then that's LeBron going back east. I don't know. LeBron wants to preserve his legacy. He wants to win. So it's like if you trade in New York and New York doesn't win, that's a lot. That's a lot. Golden State, we know he's been enamored with the opportunity of playing with Steph Curry. So that could be an option. And then Phoenix, we're trying to stay west. Look at the West teams. Since his family is here, LA is his new home and his family's here. You look at all the West teams. Phoenix, the Phoenix Suns, we know James Jones, they're really tight. They're former teammates. I think LeBron's on record of saying that James is his favorite teammate that he's had, that he's played with. James Jones is in that front office in Phoenix. So that's a possibility. I don't know. Again, if I had to put money on it, he'll stay here. He'll finish his career here. Will this be the final year? I don't know. Him opting in, that was my thoughts of it. But then, after the opt-in, all that stuff came, from Rich Paul, all the comments about what Rich Paul was saying, how he wants to win now, as he should. LeBron's been a winner his entire career. He's tried to win his entire career. He's won 4 of them. We know his track record in the East, all the years he went to the finals. He's won 1 here in LA. He's won everywhere he's gone. So he should want to win, and he does want to win. So there's nothing wrong with that. But again, we'll see. We'll just see how that all plays out. But again, our focus is Luka Doncic, building around Luka Doncic, and could Deandre Ayton be that center for Luka Doncic next year, the year after, and for many more years to come? We'll see. We know the Lakers have to do something. So, make sure you guys are tapped in, because if anything happens, we'll be back on here to talk all about it. And, let's see what happens. All right. That's my time for today. Day 2 of free agency is coming down. It's winding down. We'll push into day 3. And hopefully tomorrow we'll get Deandre Ayton, right? And if so, again, we'll be right here to talk all about it. Remember, we're here Monday through Friday, 7 p.m. Eastern Time, 4 p.m. Pacific, Lakers Daily. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for watching the replay. And sound off in the comments. And man, we'll tap in with you guys. I'm your host, LOE, which stands for Lakers Over Everything. That's where you can find me at on all platforms. Thank you, Bleacher Report. And thank you, Lakers Nation. Peace.